The house that you have your Chiron in astrology is going to tell you a lot about what you came to this earth to fix about yourself. It's very important to understand because that house should be the focus of your healing in this life. So starting with Aries, Chiron in Aries has the wound of identity. Aries is here to be a leader. Aries is here to be different. Aries is here to be unique. Aries is here to take charge. That's literally why an Aries sun is born. Aries is the first to do it, okay? It's the infant of the zodiac. They're the very first soul on earth. Because of this, Aries is bold. Aries is outgoing. Aries is restless. Aries is eager. Aries is very hardworking. But when you have your Chiron in Aries, the people that are around you try to make you feel like there's something wrong with you. You're too strong. You're too bold. You're too courageous. Your mouth is too loud. You're too masculine, especially the women. The women are often hated by women and men alike. When you have your Chiron in Aries, both genders cannot stand you once you start working that in the positive. Because Aries is masculine energy, so the men feel like she's trying to compete with them, which is where the issue is. And then the women feel like she's too aggressive because most women, when they have conflict, instead of being direct and outspoken, they're going to be passive aggressive. They're going to be manipulative. They're going to be underhanded. They're going to smile in your face and stab you in the back. You know, that's most women because most women are not raised to have a healthy, confidence about themselves, healthy self-esteem. Most women also in this patriarchal, white supremacist culture, women have been raised to believe that how women should behave is mild and muted, which is really all about how European women are raised, muted and mild, this idea that she has to be angelic. Even these messages about white women that we get, she's pure, she's angelic, which means she's poised. And you can see a lot of that, in wealthy European families. There's an expectation of how a woman should behave. I know that's not true for other ethnic categories, so I'm making that distinction. But I do want to clarify, though, that if you live in the West, that expectation that is placed on the white woman is also extended to all the other women because white supremacy still rules. It's still in charge. So all the women are supposed to act a certain way. And a woman that is masculine is not a part of the script of white supremacy. She's supposed to know her place. Women that have grown up in other societies or whose ancestors are not European, they may have been allowed to showcase more of their personality. But European women, not so much. I mean, keep in mind, it's not until the civil rights movement that MLK fought for the rights of women. Honestly, I don't even know if a lot of white women know this, but MLK at the time, yes, he was fighting for the freedom of black people, but what he actually achieved was also rights for white women, because even though white women came to the US with white men, they didn't have rights until the civil rights movement. So all of the rights that we currently have, honestly, all of them come from the civil rights movement and LBJ. If you put those two people together, that's all of the rights. So historically, the white man has never been very interested in his woman being outspoken, being bold. So when you're in Aries, there's a core wound of feeling like you have the right to take space, feeling like you have the right to exist, feeling like you have the right to be dominant, that you can assert yourself, you can say no, you can speak up, you can, tell people off, you basically having confidence. The things that women do that, they're badmouthed for are the things that men do and are celebrated for. Do you understand? So when a woman is confident, she's put down. When a man is confident, he's a leader. He's assertive. He's clear-headed, he's focused, he's driven, he has passion. When a woman does that, she's a C word, she's a B word, she's a this, she's a that. Me, personally, I embrace it. But I know not everybody is that way. But then again, my wound is not in Aries, so it's easier for me to embrace it. But when you have Chiron in Aries, healing is going to be you teaching yourself how to stand up for yourself, how to stand up in your own power, having the courage to be authentic, to be yourself, to own your power, with the understanding that some people are not going to like it. Some people are going to be mad. Some people are going to be rubbed the wrong way. And that's okay. Confidence is not about people pleasing. They're not supposed to like it. because you're telling them what they're going to do. They're not supposed to like it. They want to treat you any kind of way that they want. They want to do whatever they want to you. They don't want to give you the respect that you deserve. They want you to be quiet so they can do whatever they want to you. So when you choose to stand up for yourself, why would they be clapping for you? Why would they be celebrating you? Why would they be happy that you're doing that? They wouldn't be. So part of being confident is understanding that people are going to resent it, especially if you're a woman. So if you have Chiron in Aries, that's going to be your wound. The same applies if you have Chiron in your first house, okay? So you don't need to have Chiron in Aries, but if your Chiron is also in your first house, regardless of what the energy of your Chiron is, you're going to be dealing with this as well. Because Chiron in Aries and Chiron in first house have some similarities that they've shared together. And it's really the wound of leadership, authenticity, taking up space, giving yourself permission to be seen, to be heard, feeling pride in rubbing people the wrong way. Like, honestly, that's really what it's about. Like, I need you to own the confidence to destroy people's self-esteem when they're trying to play with you. You know, Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars is a planet of destruction. It's a planet of war. Chiron in Aries is not here to be your friend. They're not here to woo, woo, woo. It's gonna be okay. No, they're here to tell you how it's gonna go. And if you're a woman especially, people are not gonna like it. If you're a man, they're not going to like it. But at least as a man, society expects you to take space. But as a woman, society really resents you taking space. And if you're a white woman, oh my God. If you're a white woman with Chiron and Aries, I know your life is hard. Because white men are not open at all to a definition of femininity that has any sort of masculinity attached to it. So allow yourself to identify with yourself so you're not influenced by other people's perception of you. And it's okay if people misunderstand you. It's okay if people call you names because they misunderstand you. It doesn't matter. It's less about what they think and more about what you think of yourself and you living in integrity. That's really the wound of Chiron and Aries. It's about you claiming your identity and living in authenticity with like yourself, with yourself, and having integrity about who you are and what you stand up for, okay? Those of you that are hanging out, if you wouldn't tapping on the screen from me, if you wouldn't mind tapping on the screen, I would really appreciate it. So to summarize, the core wound for Aries is about identity and self-assertion, meaning checking people when they're crossed the line, telling people how it's gonna go, telling people who you are, and not backing down from a fight. Because Chiron and Aries, when they step into their power, nobody can run them down. Because you're literally ruled by the planet of destruction. Who's stronger than you? Nobody. It's just not happening. But you just have to be confident enough to step into that energy. So what Chiron and Aries came to teach that person is that courage is important. You're not going to get anywhere in life with Chiron and Aries if you don't have courage. Okay? Courage is not about people clapping for you. It's about you doing it to prove to yourself that you can do it. It's about you standing up on your own 2 feet, and it's about you knowing who you are. Again, it has nothing to do with other people. It's about you saying, I get to choose. I made a TikTok today about zodiac signs who are not into groupthink. And groupthink is basically like being a sheep, you know, following the crowd, doing what other people are doing. You want to fit in so bad that whatever other people are doing, even if it's good, if it's bad, if it makes you feel good, it makes you feel bad, you don't care. You just want to be accepted. So whatever they want to do, you want to do it too. That's being a sheep, okay? Aries is not a sheep. In addition, Aries is a leader. Aries is the first leader of the zodiac. So someone that has Chiron and Aries is here to lead. And leaders give orders. Okay? When you're the boss, when you're the leader, you give orders. Now, that doesn't mean you're a tyrant. You know, that doesn't mean you go around just being cruel to people, but you have to stand on business. You have to be clear and you have to get your message across. And it has to be like, there has to be a line that cannot be crossed. That's what it means to be a leader, right? So when you have Chiron and Aries, you're here to be courageous and be authentic, all right? Moving on to Taurus. Chiron and Taurus is here to work on their issues with feeling secure and having good self-esteem and self-worth. Chiron and Taurus, when they've done their healing work, they're going to be people who love themselves because they are. They finally learned that their self-worth is not in the things. It's not in the money. It's not in the cars. It's not in the house. It's not in the fame. It's not in who they know. It's not in the things they accumulated. It's not in their looks. It's not in their body. Chiron in Taurus, when they finally learn the lesson, they learn that they're worthy because they exist. Their value is because they are. My worth is because I exist, because I am. Whatever state I show up in, whether I'm wearing a wig, whether I'm not wearing a wig, whether I'm wearing my hair in its natural state, whether I'm putting on the filter, I'm not putting on the filter, whether I have makeup on, I don't have makeup on, whether I weigh 300 pounds or I weigh 150 pounds, it doesn't matter. I'm still me and I love me regardless. This is honestly the best thing that's happened for me as a lupus warrior. Is getting lupus, and I know I mentioned that before, because one of the stages that I went through with getting lupus is that I was overly identifying with being a worker, being a workaholic, being a corporate baddie, you know, a girl boss, you know, getting my quins, doing my job, staying fit, being in the gym 6 days a week. Like, I was living that lifestyle that was very streamlined, like very Virgo. So when lupus came, all of that got out of whack. Like, the shit just went left, okay? And suddenly, like a year into my disease, I had some complications, and like one of the things that changed was like my face. I started taking some medications that made my face like blow up like a huge balloon. So when you look at my face, it's called a moon face with lupus, where my face looked round like the moon. That's why they call it a moon face. And I think all of this is very ironic because I'm actually a Cancer North Node who's ruled by the moon. So God giving me a moon face as a Cancer North Node is so appropriate, because I was clearly totally in my Capricorn energy and not at all in this Cancer energy that I needed to be in. Because as a Cancer North Node, I was here to like work on like taking care of myself and slowing down. That was my life journey. But because of my survival mode that I grew up in and the fears that come with that, I became very addicted to like the high of accomplishment, and chasing accomplishment. So, and even though that section of my life was painful, it kind of freed me from being like overly attached to my looks. You know what I mean? Because prior to that, I was used to my body being a certain way all the time, because I've been like more or less the same look since I was a kid. So suddenly it's like every day is a different day. Some days I wake up and I'm cheerful and I got all this energy. And now, because I have a chronic illness, some days I wake up and instead of like this much energy, I have this much energy. And I still have to get up and do all the things that I need to do. And going through something like that you cannot control, like, forces you to connect with your value as a person, with your self-worth in a very different way than external factors. Okay? So Chiron in Taurus, which by the way, that's my Chiron. I like to share personal things about myself because I want y'all to know that we all go through things. It's not just, when I get on here, because of the way I communicate, because I'm neurodivergent, I'm very like sharp and to the point and clear. And sometimes people misinterpret. They think that I'm being this way because I think I'm better or superior. But no, my life is on the internet. You can go watch it. There's a lot of pain in it. Okay? There's a lot of pain in my life. Go on Styled Under Virgo on YouTube and you can watch all my stories. Look at how I looked then and look at how I'm looking now. You can go through, and there's several videos on there where my face is a balloon. Like, it's just round. And there was a period where I was just like breaking out in acne everywhere. It's like everybody has to go through their thing. And that breakdown was very necessary so that I could learn to love myself, my real self. Because the other thing that happened is I also lost my hair. Prior to that, I had natural long hair, kind of like the wig I'm wearing now. My hair was naturally long and healthy and beautiful. But, and maybe one day I'll show you guys my wedding photos. But yeah, that's when my hair looked the most beautiful. I really love my wedding photos. But all of a sudden, my hair started breaking out. Like, for a while, they thought I had cancer because I lost all my hair. So it wasn't just like my face. It was all of it. It was all like the superficial stuff. So when you go through something like that, you learn to love yourself from a place of like abundance, because you've lost so much that you have to learn that the love that you have for yourself can't be in something you can lose. Does that make sense? You have to learn that the love that you have for yourself cannot be put on something that you can lose. Because when you put the love that you have for yourself in the hands of something that you can lose, you put yourself in a position where the love that you have for yourself can be played with. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? And Taurus Chiron is here to learn that the love that you have for yourself can never be played with because it's divine. It's innate. Simply because you exist, okay? So the wound of Chiron in Taurus, to summarize, is about not feeling worthy of stability. Okay, not feeling worthy of love, not feeling worthy of material comforts. You know, many people like myself who grew up with Chiron and Taurus have struggled so much throughout life to create the life that they want that there's always a fear. There's always a fear there of like not having that stability. There's always a fear of that stability being, you know, changed somehow, of them being destabilized. And what I try to remind these people when I work with them one-on-one is that you have already survived so much. No matter what happens, you're going to know what to do because you've survived more than most when it comes to maintaining your stability. Because on every level, every superficial factor that we define as like valuable, when you have somebody who has Chiron and Taurus, you've been attacked there. In this society, what's valuable for women is being married. Well, I've been divorced. Being beautiful. Well, I've lost that. You know, having long, beautiful hair. I've lost that. You know, being like having a career. You know, I've lost that. Like everything that I've accumulated prior to my lupus diagnosis that I worked really hard on, I lost all of it. And then I had to find myself again. I had to find myself outside of workaholism. And outside of corporate climbing, you know, outside of like taking, you know, so care of myself while being hyper focused on work. And that's been a huge part of my healing. So helping others find self-worth and abundance is really big for me as far as what I do, because I have gone through it all. You know, for someone that is so young, I'm so old at the same time because I've had to survive so much. Even thinking about my transition from a foreign land to America, you know, like I had stability prior to coming here. And then when my family came here, we came like the worst time imaginable, like right in the middle of my high school year, like right in the middle of the years where you prepare for college. So I lost all my family. I lost all of my food. I lost all of my stability. I had to rebuild it from scratch on my own. I lost all my social circles. So Chiron in Taurus is somebody that has lost so much that they are insecure about feeling secure in life. That's really what the wound is. And when they heal from that, they're no longer chasing security. They become more grateful and they become more grounded in their life because they're no longer chasing the thing that they think is going to fix everything and that's going to make them feel secure, because they are the security. Every space that I stand in now, I'm secure in myself. I'm secure in my looks. I'm secure in my voice. I'm secure in my mission. I'm secure in my purpose. I'm secure in my identity. I don't need validation because I've had to heal whatever was making me hate myself when some of these things got taken away from me. Okay? Moving on to Chiron in Gemini. People who have Chiron in Gemini were ignored in their families of origin. There were often children who were told to shut up because they talked too much. There were often children that told people secrets inappropriately. There were often children that used their voice to start drama in the family, not because they were bad kids, but because, remember, Gemini is here to learn communication, okay? Communication is about a little bit more than words, right? We're not just talking to talk. We're talking to share something. And before we share it, we also think about what is the impact of what I'm sharing on that person and my circumstances, right? When a Gemini is unevolved, they think communication is just running your mouth. They think it's just gossip. Like, oh, did you hear this? Did you hear that? And sometimes they get so into it that they even make up stuff because they love the chaos, the drama that comes from like, well, what about this? What about that? Chiron and Gemini unhealed, they're a liar, the worst liar you can ever find, like pathological liar. Like they lie, and they lie. Some people lie, but Chiron and Gemini, they are masters at the art of deception. Masters at the art of lying. The way these people can lie in their sleep, it's amazing. It's incredible. Because they lie so hard, you actually believe them. Because they know how to lie. Not everybody knows how to lie, okay? I'm not saying it's a bad skill, okay? Sometimes you need to lie to survive. I get it. And oftentimes, Chiron and Gemini, they grew up in the home where there was a lot of treachery. Oftentimes, like, there's infidelity in the family between, like, authority figures. And, you know, the parents will use the Chiron and Gemini kid to lie to each other. Like, tell your dad I'm going over here when they're really over there, you know, with the other woman. That sort of thing. So these children had to lie to survive, okay? In their defense, this is a coping mechanism that they needed to be able to make it through that household. And healing, when they get out of there, is actually learning the power of communication and how to use it for the betterment of their lives, to improve other people's lives, but more importantly, to build relationships. Because Chiron and Gemini, that wound is created in the midst of relationships being destroyed. That skill set that they have with communication and their ability to lie came from dysfunction. It came from dysfunction in the home around communication. Because oftentimes I grew up in the home where people don't know how to talk to each other. People yell, people scream, people lie, or people withdraw communication altogether. So when there's a problem, they don't know how to use words to talk about the problem. So communication then becomes a weapon in that home. So Chiron and Gemini, they become very good at using communication as a weapon to get their way by lying, manipulating, being two-faced, being argumentative for no reason. These are yes but people. These are the not all men people. You know that type? Like, but not all men. It's like, that's implied. We know not all men are terrible. We're talking about, in general, what masculinity does to Earth. These are the, I'm going to be a devil's advocate type of people. And it's because they get a high off of contradiction in the environment, off of chaos, off of confusion. It really takes them back to their childhood. Even though it is toxic, you have to remember the things we're familiar with in childhood. We don't stop feeling good about it simply because we grew up. We can know something is toxic, but if that's what feels good because it's familiar, guess what? We're going to do more of it. So Chiron and Gemini, because they struggle to be heard, when they're unhealed and they become older, starting drama is how they get attention. Because they haven't gotten a lot of attention. They haven't been heard. They've been ignored. They've been muted. They've been shunned. They've been judged. They've been made fun of. You know, basically their parents wanted to silence them because they knew too much as a child. They knew too much gossip in the home. And they made a couple of mistakes with sharing things they shouldn't have shared. And it's gotten them in trouble. Because remember, the adults that are supposed to model healthy communication are inept. They don't have any skills to successfully do that. So that child never learned how to communicate. So unhealed, drama, chaos, gossip, lies, this is where they thrive. But when they heal, they understand that communication has to come from a place of clear thinking. Okay? Your mind has to be sane. Your mind has to be clear to communicate, and they understand that communication isn't just words, it's also emotions. So when I'm communicating something, how is that going to feel to that person? I think about that, and then I try to choose my words based on how I want it to feel when I share it. And I understand my words are powerful. They have power. They have meaning. They change worlds. They change lives. So I choose them very carefully. People who have Chiron and Gemini who have done their healing work teach other people how to express themselves. They teach people how to own their voice, how to be confident. They teach people how to think critically, you know, how to be someone that is a critical observer of the facts. And they teach people how to trust their own inner guidance and their own inner voice. And that's what a Chiron and Gemini can do for you. So when you meet a Chiron and Gemini, you will know that they're healed based on their ability to uplift your voice. Because a Chiron and Gemini wants to hear you speak. They want you to amplify your voice because that's work they've had to do for themselves. And that goes for all of them. When you meet a Chiron and Aries, you'll know that they're healed because they uplift your confidence. Chiron and Aries wants you to take space. They want you to be bold. Chiron and Taurus want you to own your self-esteem. They want you to heal whatever is in you that's making you feel small. Okay? So every healed Chiron will come to you with the gift. And their gift is having learned from this crazy childhood what they needed to learn so that you didn't have to go through the pain they've had to go through to learn that lesson. So if you notice Chiron in Aries that's putting you down, you know they're unhealed. If you notice Chiron in Taurus that thinks their value comes from material possessions or their looks or the people they know, just superficial things, and they think you're nobody because you don't have superficial things, that's how you know they're not healed. Chiron in Gemini that's always in gossip, always in drama, and always like saying like half truths here, half truth there, or they talk about people behind their back but smile in their face, or they tell you things and ask you not to repeat it. They're not healed. They're still reenacting their childhood wounds, okay? Moving on to Chiron in Cancer. Miracle Hen said we are blunt. We say it the way it is. We don't mince words. I'm assuming you mean mince. That's what it looks like. It looks like another word, but I think you mean mince. All right, so moving on to Chiron in Cancer. Chiron in Cancer is the wound of nurturing. Chiron in Cancer children in childhood did not get nurtured. They did not get any warmth. Being a mother is a tough job, and not every woman who has a child is good at it, okay? Because there's so many skills that are required to do a good job, okay? And there's no such thing as a perfect mom. I can say that honestly as a mother. But there are some skill sets that are more helpful to somebody that wants to become a mom than not. Like a mom that is effective is a nurturer. She's emotionally in tune with her child. She knows how to speak to her child to get the results that she wants from her child. She's a safe place for her child. She's emotionally tuned in. She is kind. She is gentle. She is loving. It doesn't mean that she gives you passes when you're misbehaving, but it's important to her that you feel good about yourself and that you have healthy self-esteem. She knows the little things about you that you need to feel safe. So even if she has to be harsh with you because you're doing something bad, she would try to supplement the harshness with love so that you don't feel rejected. Because even as a child, even when you're doing something wrong, it's not because you're a bad kid. So a good mom doesn't want you to think you're a bad kid. She wants you to know that what you're doing is wrong. There's a difference. You're not a bad person. You're making bad choices. Okay? A choice is something you can change. But when you send a child a message that they're bad, they can't change who they are. Then they start to develop a wound of feeling unworthy of love, of feeling less than. And you don't ever want to make your child feel less than, even when they're doing something wrong. You want to correct the behavior without shaming the person. Okay? When a child is misbehaving, we separate the child from the behavior. We focus on the behavior, not the child. Children that have Chiron in Cancer did not get mothering. They were raised, but they were not mothered. They were not nurtured. They were not given tenderness, gentleness, kindness, understanding, emotional support. A lot of times when these children were going through intense things emotionally, they had to go through it alone, isolated from their maternal support. When children are little, they need a lot of maternal support, and that's how they learn how to regulate their own emotions. When children do not get that, they have an emotional wound of abandonment. Because emotionally, Cancer Chiron children were abandoned by their mothers. And it's not that the mother wasn't there. She was physically there. She just didn't nurture them. So it's almost like those children are rejected emotionally. So if you're going through something, mommy, mommy, mommy. Mommy doesn't want to hear it. She wants you to leave her alone. You're bothering her. Or sometimes she may even turn around and blame you for the problem that you need help with. Like, why did you even get yourself in that situation? So she may even punish you for needing her help. So Chiron and Cancer children are often silenced. And as a result of being silenced, they believe that they're not smart enough. They start to think lowly of themselves. Like they can't accomplish great things. They're not smart enough They're never going to be anybody important in this life because their mothers treat them like they're worthless. Because when we're little, our feelings is all that we have. We don't have an identity outside of our mom and our family. We don't have cars, you know. We don't have jobs. We don't have bank accounts. We don't have college degrees. All we have is the little circle that we belong to. And it starts with being in mom's belly. So we know we have mom. Because when children are first born, they actually think that they're a part of mom. When they're very little, this is what psychology tells us. Toddlers think they're a part of mom. Infants think they're a part of mom. They don't have the cognitive understanding yet to recognize that mom is their own person and they are their own person. So they think they're together with mom. So if I believe I'm together with mom and something is bothering me and causing me pain, and mom is telling me she doesn't care, she doesn't want to listen to me, she doesn't want me to talk to her, she makes me feel like I'm bothering her, or she scolds me for wanting help, what does that teach me about my relationship with myself? It teaches me that I'm not worthy, that I don't deserve. And that's the wound of Chiron in Cancer. So once a Chiron in Cancer has healed, they learn how to express themselves. They learn how to trust their own intuition, their guidance, their inner voice, and they learn how to help other people take care of themselves. Okay? They become very emotionally resilient people. And the reason for that is because that abandonment from mom, that safety that they lost from feeling welcome in mom's energy and in their own family, has taught them how to love themselves. Chiron and Cancer people do not feel loved by their families. They feel used by their families. There's a difference. Those families know the gifts of emotional support that these people have, because that's literally the gift they came to share with the world. How to love yourself, how to nurture yourself, how to heal yourself, how to be patient with yourself, how to be understanding. That is our divine gift. Just like Chiron and Gemini, their gift is how to get your point across, how to communicate clearly. Okay? So the families will use them for their emotional resource, but it doesn't go the other way. They give the support, but the others don't give them support. So these people, Chiron and Cancer, they feel abandoned, emotionally abandoned in their own families. And that wound was to teach them to nurture themselves, to love themselves, to take care of themselves, to prioritize their emotional comfort. Because if they don't, nobody else will. Because nobody else cares about how they feel. They're the only ones who have to care about it. So Chiron in Cancer, you'll know that you'll know that you've met a healed Chiron in Cancer, because there will be an emotional safe place for you. Because they know what it's like to create a safe space from scratch. Because they've never had safety. They've never had emotional safety, so they've had to create it. So they'll create an emotionally safe space for you to be yourself and to express your feelings. They will encourage you to trust your feelings, to take care of your feelings, to trust in your ability to overcome even difficult emotional situations. Chiron and Cancer healed are some of the most loving, nurturing, energetically generous people you'll ever meet. And they're so good at it that their mere presence is healing, because they know what it's like to finally tap in and tune within to be able to take care of themselves, because this is a gift that was not given to them. They've had to cultivate it. Okay? Those of you that are new here, hi, thanks for being here. So Sarah's has their Chiron in the 10th house. Very good. And it says Jupiter and Gemini MC. Oh, very good. So I can already tell there's a wound here of communication. I love when people who have Chiron and Gemini become public speakers. Those are the best public speakers. In fact, I think, what is that motivational speaker guy's name? He's an Aries sun. What's his name? He does retreats. that lots of people go to. He's a white guy, kind of big, like he looks like he works out a lot. Very strong looking guy. He's a motivational speaker. Let me Google it. 1 second. And thank you so much for being here, for hanging out. And if you guys wouldn't mind, those of you that are hanging out, if you wouldn't mind tapping on the screen, I would really appreciate it. The likes definitely help me and help TikTok. Okay, let me go look at his chart. I want to make sure the information I'm giving you is accurate. So I want to look at the chart to make sure. Okay, so I was wrong. His name is Tony Robbins, and his Chiron is in Aquarius, but Aquarius is also a communicator. The Chiron with Aquarius is less, even though Aquarius is a communicator, it's less about just communication, but it's about communicating how weird you are. You know what I mean? Communicating the fact that you've had a different life and that you're different. And it doesn't mean you can't relate to people. In fact, that's the gift of Aquarius, is that they're so different that they relate to everybody. But when they're younger, them being different just makes them feel isolated. So they believe that they can't relate to anybody and they can't fit in anywhere and nobody likes them and nobody's ever going to understand them. And none of that is true. And it's precisely because they've suffered rejection and judgment for being weird and for being ostracized. That's precisely why they're so empathetic and why they're so kind and why they're so loving and why they're such a humanitarian and why they're so generous and why they're so principled, is because they know what it's like to be abused and to be shunned and to be an outcast. So Tony Robbins, I don't know if you guys know him, but if you were to study his life story, you're going to see that there's a lot of pain in there. So for him to be able to turn that around and become a motivational speaker is huge. And come to think of it, that those are the makings of a good motivational speaker, right? If you guys wouldn't mind tapping on the screen for me while I continue this, I would really appreciate it. Chiron and Leo. Chiron in Leo is the wound of self-expression. This is somebody that never felt good enough. So because they never felt good enough as a kid, because people thought they were being too dramatic, too bold, too theatrical, too attention-seeking, too much of a diva, too full of themselves, people constantly wanted to make them feel small. They're family members. That's what I mean by people. And they're also very creative people, Chiron in Leo. All fire signs have a lot of creativity. So Chiron and Leo, your family recognized early on that you were special, but they were jealous of that. So they rejected it. They wanted you to feel small. So they worked really hard to dim your light. Because your brightness, your light, was intimidating to them. So Chiron and Leo have to learn how to love themselves. They have to learn how to love themselves by speaking their minds, by taking space, by understanding that they're special, not because anybody's clapping, but because they inherently are. And by celebrating their spice, their jazz, their freedom. Chiron and Leo is someone that's comfortable performing because they finally understand that it's okay to be seen. It's okay to shine. It's okay to be unapologetically yourself. It's okay to be a diva. It's okay. People can handle it. And more importantly, it's a lot of fun for us. Imagine a world without entertainment. Chiron in Leo is naturally very entertaining. So naturally, they commanded a lot of attention in the family. And if nobody else in that family had any Leo energy, of course they're going to be haters. Because why are you shining so brightly? Why? Why are you asking for so much attention? Why do you always want people to be looking at you? But that's their gift. They came to teach people to free themselves by speaking their mind, by being themselves. Chiron in Leo is here to heal their relationship with creativity and with self-expression. And when they're finally healed, when you meet a Chiron in Leo, they're going to be people who encourage you to speak up. They want you to be bold. They want you to be bad. They want you to take space. They want you to own your strength, own your power. They want you to try that crazy thing you've been wanting to try. They want you to live your life. They want you to stand in your power. They want you to embody this queen and king energy that Leo has. They don't want you to be small. They want you to take space. They want you to be brave. They want you to be courageous. They want you to chase your dreams. They want you to seek joy. They want you to seek pleasure. Chiron in Leo is somebody that lives life to the fullest. They have big, bold energy, big, bold personalities, and they don't turn down to make other people feel comfortable. Remember that song, Turn Down for What? Yeah, that's Chiron in Leo. Their whole lives in childhood, their family wanted them to turn their light down. And they rejected their light because they were supposed to find joy in their own light. And when they heal, they do, and they shine. And when they go into spaces, they see people that are still playing small, people who are not confident, they build them up because they want them to shine. Chiron in Leo knows all of us came to Earth to shine. All of us. We all have gifts. All of us. So your job in this journey, the spiritual journey, is to find your gift and allow it to shine as a blessing to other people. Every movie that you like, every song that you like, every artist that you like, every piece of art that you like, every sport event that you go to, these are people who pursued their dreams. These are people that were brave enough to go for it. They didn't know what was ahead, but they trusted the process. And they chose to bank on themselves, and they chose to have fun. And that's why they get to bless you as you watch them shine. Chiron in Leo wants everybody to shine. So you'll know that you've met a healed version when they shine unapologetically and they encourage you to do the same. Finishing up here, we're going to stop here with Chiron in Virgo. And next time we meet, I'm going to do the other ones. Chiron in Virgo has to heal the wound of self-criticism and perfectionism. Chiron in Virgo grew up in the house where there was a lot of illness. Usually with Chiron in Virgo, there's a sick parent in the home or a sick person in the home that people have to heal. There's usually a sick female figure, who is struggling with health issues. And as a result, the household is very strict. Things have to run in the household in a certain manner so that the health of this person is taken care of. Okay, so usually with Chiron in Virgo, illness is in the mix. Chaos is not tolerated. And unfortunately, that message is extended to humanity. So when you have big feelings, you're told you need to bring it down. When you're less than perfect, you're told you need to tighten up. You're not allowed to make mistakes. Everything is very military style, very organized, very structured, very strict. So Chiron in Virgo lives and grows up as a child with a lot of criticism. So even when they grow up and the parent is no longer there to criticize them, they have those tapes playing in their head where they're always criticizing themselves. It's never good enough. Even when they try their best, it's never good enough. They could set a goal and accomplish it and still not feel good enough because the issue is here. This is why wherever you have Virgo energy, I recommend meditation because the issue is here. Remember, Virgo is ruled by Mercury, the planet of communication. So Virgo is a very cerebral zodiac sign. So all of the Virgo issues are in their head. And if a Virgo can learn to fix what's going on here, that would be half of their battle in life. Honestly, learning how to control their mind. Because when they leave the abuse, they're still controlled by the abuse psychologically. Because they've saved and organized those tapes very neatly. So it's not enough that mom beat them down or dad beat them down or the world is beating them down. They're also beating themselves down. They set themselves up to a standard that they cannot live up to and that no normal human can live up to. And when they cannot meet that standard, then they beat themselves down. There's a lot of self-flagellation with Virgo energy, and it's quite never ending until they heal it. What Virgo is here to learn is that healing is a comprehensive thing. Healing isn't just going to the doctor to take your medication. Healing is also acupuncture. Healing is also energy healing. Healing is also astrology. Healing is also therapy. Healing is also psychiatry. Healing is also, meditation. Healing is also walking through the forest quietly. Healing is also journaling. Sometimes healing is taking a bath. Sometimes healing is biting your tongue. Sometimes healing is minding your business. Sometimes healing is creating a budget. Virgo's here to learn that there's healing in every breath of life if you're willing to incorporate it in. A lot of times Virgos, when they're unhealed, they think healing is something that happens over there very far and they have to go get it. What they're here to learn is that they're already perfect. They're already whole. The problem was the messaging that they received in the home. The home is who taught them that they weren't good enough. But really, if we're being honest, out of all the zodiac signs, nobody tries harder than a Virgo. Nobody works harder than the Virgo. Nobody has better performance than a Virgo when it comes to setting a goal and nailing it. Nobody. Virgo does the most. Virgo works the hardest, and Virgo's the harshest on themselves. And this is precisely why when you look at studies that they do about like how employees get paid, Virgos are often the most underpaid employee in their company, even though they're the hardest worker. Why? Because they don't believe they deserve it. They believe they have to prove their worth. They have to earn it. So they're always working twice as hard as their colleagues and making less of the money that other people are making because their confidence in themselves is low. Because their confidence is rooted in self-criticism and perfectionism. But nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. So if you're waiting for you to be imperfect to get what you deserve, you're never going to get it because you will never not be without flaws. Because all of us are flawed. And that's really the message here. Virgo's here to learn themselves, and they're here to accept themselves the way that they are. You will know that a Virgo Chiron is healed when they show you their flaws. And they're not mad about it. And that's also how you know that a Virgo is healed. One of my favorite Virgos is Pink, the singer Pink. Because from a young age, first of all, when Pink first came on the scene, we thought she was like a light-skinned black girl, you know, because Pink was rocking with black girls. She was rocking with us. So we accepted her. We thought she was one of us. We knew she wasn't black, but we knew she was not racist. Every black person knew that. We knew that back in the day. And then Pink, as she grew up and we got to know her, you know, she stopped making music that was like in the lane of black music. You know what I mean? Like hip hop and R&B. She started making more of like, I'm still a rock star. So like more like mainstream Caucasian music, right? But we still loved her. Why? Because she was always real. Pink was always real. Pink was always honest. Pink was always herself. And what I love about Pink is that she's a mess. And she tells you. She tells you. You know, I remember when she was having issues in her marriage. I remember when Pink was having issues in her marriage, she made a whole album about that. Her and her husband were going through a rough time and they thought they were going to be getting a divorce. And she made a whole album about that whole experience. And it was very raw. It was honest. It was truthful. And a healed Virgo is that. Obviously, you can tell she's a Virgo. She minds her business. You don't ever hear her private business in the news. She's not attention seeking. She flies below the radar. She's probably living in some ranch somewhere, you know, raising her kids and her husband. She literally has been with the same guy for many, many years. Her hair has always been short. You know, Pink gives that look of like she could beat you up, but she would rather you not test her, you know? And that's Virgo energy. Like Virgo women are not supposed to be like super friendly, super open. Because remember, Virgo's dark feminine energy. So she's more withdrawn. And she's very smart. That's the other thing. So what I'm trying to say is when a Virgo has healed, they don't define themselves by their ability to show up in the world as perfect. And that's every place where you have Virgo placement, that's going to be true, but especially at Chiron. Especially at Chiron, because Chiron in Virgo is very self-hating. Very self-hating. Because they were taught that if they weren't perfect, they were not worthy. And they needed to do everything down to the letter to perfection. If they miss anything, then the whole thing is trash. And when a Virgo is healed, they understand that there's so many parts of them that are not in sync. And they're focused on bringing their healing together by working on their mind, their body, their emotion, their routine, their finance. Like Virgo becomes a holistic person who understands that healing is comprehensive. It's not just in one place or out there. It's life. And living a healed life is a life that is balanced. So in Greek mythology, Chiron was a healer who could not heal themselves. So having to live with a disease that they can never heal or a wound that they can never heal increased their knowledge and compassion for human suffering. So as a result of that, they became very knowledgeable about how to heal others since they couldn't heal themselves. So Chiron in astrology is where you would go to have a deep understanding of your own wound, your deepest wound, and what you need to do to heal your wound. So in Greek mythology, it's called the wounded healer because Chiron is wounded and does not have the key to their healing. And it's only in offering healing to others that Chiron gets a little bit of like healing energy back towards themselves. I relate a lot to Chiron myself, living with a chronic illness. You know, I live with a chronic illness called lupus. As far as we know right now, lupus has no cure. So it's something I have to live with for the rest of my life. So because of that, I made the transition from being a therapist to being an astrologer because I wanted to actually dedicate the latter part of my life to my own healing as opposed to being the person that heals everybody. So I suppose in my profession as an astrologer, I am now the wounded healer and I identify very much with that. And since being diagnosed with lupus, I've also been diagnosed with ADHD, which makes me a neurodivergent girly. So I'm dealing with, you know, having to heal my body on the physical level due to lupus and also heal my mental health as a result of being neurodivergent. So there is a lot of complexities that are happening with me and my overall health. And, you know, none of that has made me bitter or angry or mean-spirited. Sometimes I am cranky though, because, you know, when you live with a chronic illness, every day is different. Some days you wake up and you feel great, and other days you wake up and, you know, you don't feel great, but life still goes on. You still have responsibilities that you need to show up for. And that's not easy to live constantly in the state of pain. Like pain is your constant. There's not a day where you don't have it, where you don't deal with it. You're just constantly living and dealing with it. So sometimes I'm a bit cranky and I don't really like to waste my time on, you know, frivolous conversations and mindsets and things that do not enrich my life. However, you know, looking back on it, I think lupus has actually enriched my life in a very meaningful way. And I'm truly grateful for it because it's given me a new perspective and it's actually opened me up very widely to suffering, not just being someone that helps other people heal their suffering, but how do I manage my own suffering when me, the healer, becomes the one that is now also suffering. So Chiron is that mixture. And what's interesting is Chiron in astrology is associated with zodiac sign Sagittarius, which is my sun sign. Talk about astrology, right? Sometimes astrology is too on the nose. Chiron is also associated with zodiac sign Virgo because Virgo is the healer of the zodiac. And some astrologers associate Chiron with zodiac sign Libra because Libra represents balance. You know, balance of good and evil, balance of light and darkness. So you're the healer, but you're also the wounded one, and you have to show up in the world in a balanced way, not in a jaded, mean-spirited, or, you know, angry kind of way. Thank you to all you guys that are liking the live. Thank you for all the comments. I'm going to read some of them right now before we keep moving forward. So it says, let's see. So Sarah Sapphire said, does lupus usually onset in puberty or does it just undiagnosed in childhood? Lupus has different ages of onset. It can happen to anyone at any time. For me, it came later in life, and I'm grateful for that. There's a girl that I follow here on TikTok who's had it since she was a teenager, and she's such a huge source of inspiration for me because obviously me getting it later in life, I've gotten to enjoy, you know, a large portion of my life without it. So me learning how to live with it is rather new. I got it at the beginning of 2020, so it's been 5 years. But she's had it since she was a kid, and she's been managing it since she was a kid. And I have a lot of admiration and respect for people who know how to endure when they're suffering, people who can go through hard times and bounce back, people who can learn from their suffering and have a positive attitude. because there is no life without suffering. Some people get more of it than others, but all of us have to suffer. That's what, that's what the human experience calls for. There's no perfect life. So I'm very inspired by people like that, people who've gone through a lot of hardships and have learned lessons. So Chiron, back to Chiron in astrology, Chiron represents where you carry your deepest wound. And that wound is psychological, it's emotional, and it's also spiritual. So wherever you carry your deepest psychological, emotional, and spiritual wound is what your Chiron is going to express to you. The paradox of Chiron, which is why Libra is even associated with it, is that you learn to live with empathy and compassion and a deeper understanding of yourself and other people because your suffering doesn't have an endpoint. Your pain doesn't have a cure. Your pain doesn't have a conclusion. It is just a part of your life. You accept it as a part of your life. And as a result, you learn how to manage your pain while also being exposed to other people's pain. A lot of times, for me personally, this is about my experience, because my disability is invisible. A lot of times people that are in their own cycle of pain will project their issues onto me. Some people have even tried to tell me that I'm not really sick and that I can just cure whatever's going on with me like that because they see me and I seem well. They see me and they're like, oh, she looks normal. She looks happy. She looks happy, she looks healthy. So sometimes people will attempt to dehumanize my experience just because they can't see my disability. It's not something they can touch. It's not something they can feel. So it's really bothersome to people when you have a disability that they can't see and they can't touch. It's like they feel like they need to get involved with it somehow. And oftentimes, unfortunately, it's in very inappropriate ways. So the paradox of having an invisible illness is that you look well, but you're not. Only you know that you're not. But to everybody, you look well. So that is the complexity of Chiron, is that it's very easy for people to mask it. It's very easy for people to hide it. And sometimes I can even put on a show, like on days when I wake up where my energy is high. I can be very optimistic. I can be very outgoing. I can be very funny. And people forget that, oh yeah, this is the girl that's living with this thing that doesn't have a cure. So it's like that. So Chiron can easily be a part of our personality that we hide, and our failure to see it authentically for what it is causes it to operate in the shadow. Because it's not that you're cured of it, it's that it's simply in the shadow. When you're living with an illness that doesn't have a cure, you learn to cope, okay? And sometimes coping means I'm going to forget about this illness, this disease today, and I'm just going to focus on living. So what that means is that you take that storyline to the shadows and then you focus on the present, on the joy of this moment. And people who don't know you personally, don't know the insides of your life, they only get exposed to the image you're presenting. So if it's lighthearted, if it's funny, if it's outgoing, if it's youthful, if it's fresh, they assume that's all that you are. So there is a little bit of a paradox with Chiron that I want to bring to focus, okay? Chiron teaches us that real healing is not about erasing our pain, but rather accepting our pain, integrating our pain into our daily life, and seeing it as an opportunity to serve others. I started a YouTube channel focused on talking about lupus prior to the astrology thing because I saw my suffering as something that could bless someone, that could benefit someone. I saw my diagnosis as an opportunity to open the world's eyes. Condition, a lot of people don't know about it. So when you're dealing with a condition that you cannot cure, one of the things that you can do, well, two things that you can do are, number one, you learn to live with it with a positive attitude, because life still goes on. And number two, you learn, if you're wanting to, you can learn to be of service to other people to help ease their journey with the knowledge that you have from your suffering. Our current placement shows us where we can help other people heal, even as we continue to heal our own scars, our own wounds, and obviously not all of them can be fully healed. So healing is about acceptance. It's not about how do I get past it? It's how do I integrate this pain into my day-to-day? How do I create a life now that honors this new segment of my life? How do I create a life that recognizes that, my life is now different, but also, create a life that doesn't necessarily feel like it's less of the life that you had before. So it's a little bit less about trying to fix it or trying to move past it, and more about trying to integrate the light and the darkness together. So I still have my life. I still feel very, youthful and energized, on most days. So my life is still here. Is it a painful life? Yes. But I still have it. So by incorporating my pain into my actual life, I'm now able to live an integrated life where I don't run away from my problems, but I'm also not pretending that my life is different than what it is, if that makes sense. Okay? So it's about integration. So that was it on all the Chirons. We're going to stop at Virgo, and next time we meet, we'll do Libra to Pisces. So let me summarize. For those of you who just joined at the last minute. Chiron in Aries, the wound is identity and self-assertion, and they're here to teach themselves and others how to be courageous and how to be authentic. Chiron in Taurus, the wound is self-worth and security. They're here to teach themselves and others how to love yourself and how to live an abundant life. Okay? Chiron in Gemini, the wound is around feeling heard and communicating appropriately. They're here to teach themselves and others how to express yourself and how to think logically and clearly. Chiron in Cancer, the wound is around emotional safety and feeling like you belong, that you're included. They're here to teach themselves and others how to nurture yourself and how to create safe spaces in relationships. Okay? Chiron in Leo, the wound is around creativity and expressing yourself. They're here to teach themselves and others how to express yourself, how to let your colors shine. And when they're healed, they create a space that encourages other people to also shine and take space. Lastly, Chiron in Virgo, the wound is around self-criticism and perfectionism. And when they've healed, they learn that life is messy. It's not about perfection, but rather it's about acceptance. Okay? So the Chiron in Virgo, when they've healed, they accept themselves, flaws included, and they understand that healing is holistic. You can't just heal your mind and not heal your heart. You can't just heal your body and not heal your heart and your mind. Healing is the whole thing, and we have to attend to all of it. Okay? All right. So thanks, guys, for coming to hang out with me. Miss Sarah said she's excited for next time because she has Chiron in Libra. Yay. We'll start with that, and we'll end with Chiron in Pisces. Thanks, guys, for your support. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the gifts. Thanks for watching my videos. Thanks for subscribing to my YouTube channel. Thanks for following me on Patreon and reading your daily horoscopes over there. Thanks for subscribing to Styled Under Virgo if you're interested in holistic healing. Thanks for subscribing to Styled Under Libra on YouTube if you're interested in astrology and love. Thanks for following my main astrology account, which is at Intuitive Healing. All the links are in bio, and you can head over to intuitivehealing.com to schedule a private astrology reading with me. Take care of yourselves. Au revoir! You can book your astrology reading at intuitivehealing.com. You can also watch videos at Intuitive Healing here on YouTube for Astrology 101 content. Listen to the Aquarius podcast on Spotify, as well as here on YouTube for your horoscope. If you're interested in astrology and love connections, you can visit at Styled Under Libra. And of course, for health and wellness and holistic healing, visit at Styled Under Virgo for all of your astrology content. Thanks so much for watching.